Aliens, ghosts, the supernatural, conspiracies. A cup of coffee? Welcome to Caffeinated Conspiracies. I'm your host, Glenn.
And I'm your host, Omer. We look at the eye-opening, the crazy, the unexplained. Do we give you answers?
No. But do we shed some light on the weird and wonderful?
Also no. But we do look at different theories, plausible solutions, and even come up with our own.
We aren't experts, ufologists, or scientists, but we are open-minded individuals and have an interest in the unknown.
So put us in your pocket, grab a coffee, and let's dive into this week's episode.
This week we are diving into the depths of history's most haunting maritime mystery, the Titanic conspiracy. Uncover the secrets that sank with the ship and explore the theories that we have sailed through time. Join us on the riveting episode of Caffeinated Conspiracies as we navigate the icebergs of intrigue and unveil the untold stories of the Titanic. Get ready to set sail into the unknown. So yes, welcome to this week's episode. We are looking at the Titanic, and I suppose before we get into it, because the people listening can't actually see our screens, I've got Omer, who's always with me. He's my enigma?
Enigmatic.
I'm
hoping that's the word you're going for.
Yeah, he's my co-host. But this week we've got another special guest with us. We've got Dave. And I know people are thinking, who the hell's Dave? So
I was kidnapped.
Dave,
this was not my choice.
Dave has not been brought on with free will. Dave is very much like us. He's not a ufologist. He's not an expert in any field. He's just not an expert at anything. It's the same as us.
This is coming from you, Glenn.
This is coming from me. We are just three blithering idiots who like to drink some coffee and talk conspiracy theories. But Dave hosts a show called From Dusty Cartridges to Broken Discs. He hosts it with myself and another colleague of ours, Adam, where we talk video games. So, yeah, we thought we'd bring him on to talk about the Titanic. How are you feeling about today's show, Dave?
Not happy, to be honest. I've been in from work for about an hour, and then I got a message from you saying, "Come on tonight's episode."
Pretty much, yeah.
I'm sat here with water.
That's what drowned the Titanic. Don't have water. That's the problem.
I thought I'd bring some props.
See, me and Omer genuinely drink coffee as caffeinated conspiracies, Dave. You know, keep with the flow, man.
It's wet.
It will do. It will do.
That's just never going to end up wet.
So, Dave, I'm going to jump straight to you. So every week I ask Omer where his research took him. Now, me and you have already had discussions on what we believe the Titanic conspiracies behind it and the Titanic not being the Titanic, but we'll get into that further into the episode. Off the top of your head, what do you know about the Titanic itself?
Well, I mean, it was a tragedy. What more can you say, really? It was devastating. I mean, the ship itself at the time, one of the biggest liners, the fastest liner.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think it was about 2,200 people were on board.
2,240 passengers, which was and then the crew as well. Yeah. Sorry, 2,240 passengers and crew on board.
Right, 2,200 passengers, give or take.
Yeah, give or take. We're not counting the stowaways.
I like how we don't count the crew. The crew aren't real people in
this.
No, they're just and crew. It's like there could be like 400 of them, but they're just and crew.
Just added them in.
Had to RSVP.
But I mean, just off that as well, 15,000 of them lost. Sorry, 1,500 lost their lives as well. So, I mean, again, sorry, Dave, for interrupting you there. As you was going to say more.
Yeah. So, like you say, 1,500 people lost. I mean, what can you say? I mean, they went into the ice. They went into the ice field. I mean, there's lots of. People saying it was the captain's fault. I mean, he was an experienced captain.
Yeah.
Why would he go full pelt into an ice field? Basically,
we've all done it. If we've all done it, you think that you know something, you're going to go head first into it without thinking.
There's many things that went wrong. I mean, human error. Was it money motivated? Was it the businesses wanting to prove that it was the fastest ship, getting it to New York.
You make it sound like it was in a race with other ships.
Well, I mean,
like they're all like docked in Queenstown at the same time. It's like first one to America wins.
Bad fun, but death race.
I mean, I'm not going to lie, Dave, just from that little bit of information you've given there, I mean, you already should be on the show permanently, mate, because that was brilliant. That was beautifully summed up there. I like that.
Well.
I mean, going on to you, Omer, where did your research take you? Because I know me and you do the research. Dave is a guest. He didn't have to do any research. He's come on with the knowledge that he already knows. But where did your research take you in this?
I just watched the movie. Does that not count?
No, mate, don't bring up the movie.
Leo was definitely on it, right?
I watched that movie again not long ago after we said that we were going to do the Titanic, and we started doing our research. And I thought, you know what? I've not seen the film in years. I haven't cried so much in so long. But we've got kids as well, right? The kids are coming in, right? Bearing in mind, kids are clearly like stone cold heartless, right? Because me and the missus are sat there crying towards the end of the film, and he's like, "Why are you crying?" The die, it's a sad moment. That guy fell off a boat. You just sort of like, it's like me.
Glenn, when you die, I'm gonna throw you in the ocean just so you can wake up next to a fucking clock tower with Leonardo DiCaprio.
To be quite fair, when watching the original version, the scene where the boat cracks in two and that one guy goes falling down and hits the banister and then just starts twirling. I giggled at that.
I mean, at a younger age, yeah, I probably did. But I mean, watching it now, yeah. I mean, I've been watching a lot of documentaries on it as well, in regards to not only the conspiracies, but the actual story that we know is that the ship set sail, it side-swiped an iceberg, which literally tore a massive hole in the hull, and began the sinking of the Titanic. A bit of a movie fact here for you, and I just love this one. The length of the film is the same length of time it took for the Titanic to sink after hitting the iceberg. So a little bit of useless movie knowledge there. We chuck your movie knowledge one in as best we can every now and then, but people are not here to listen into a movie show. It's a podcast on conspiracies.
So imagine if you were watching that movie on the Titanic, it's hit the iceberg, and you're like, I want to finish the movie, though. Do I have time?
God damn it, the credits.
If I'd have just skipped the credits, no one told me there was no after credit scene.
No, I've still got time to get off the boat.
When Omer, with your research, every week you've said it that a lot of it takes you down a rabbit hole. Did you fall down any with this one?
I'm going to throw this one out because it's nothing to do with facts. It was just a movie one that I fell across. Who knows? I just fall everywhere.
Sounds about right.
But it was like, just so I can get it out of the way and we can ignore it for later. It's the weird. What thing is the theory is that Leo or Jack in the Titanic is actually the Great Gatsby, the same character he played.
So we've got another movie theory.
After the events of Great Gatsby, he was like, I need to get away from my life. I'm just going to go travel and act like a poor guy. That's why he was looking for tickets instead of bought the tickets. So that was just his last hurrah.
Okay.
Where do we go from there?
Where do we go from there? I would say let's take a break, but it's far too early for a break. So going into the history of the Titanic, so it was a product of intense competition among rival shipping lines in the first half of the 20th century. In particular, the white I can't even get the words out today. White Star Line found itself in the battle steamship with, is it Cunard? Cunard. Sorry, thank you for correcting me there, Dave. This is why we need Dave on the show, because he's not completely illiterate.
I'm not that much of an idiot as you two.
He can read, unlike us.
But obviously,
my research has been videos. Clearly,
these two companies were like the ones. These were the two main rival companies, and obviously they wanted to be the best of the best, sailing ships from everywhere that they could. Now, Cunard launched one of their ships the same year. It was basically launched with like a spectacular interior, which is sort of what there was the thingy first, wasn't there? The Olympic, which was the Titanic was built on top on the design of that, and the Olympic had to do something to sort of keep up with the other ships, so they built this fantastic design, as we see in the Titanic, the beautiful staircase and everything like that. On the Titanic, it is just a copy of the one from the Olympic, because they used the same plans, they just extended it. And that's where like a lot of the theories and conspiracies come into, that the Titanic isn't really the Titanic. But again, we'll get into that just a bit further down the line. Now, at this point, Omer, has your research come up with anything just sort of on the history?
History-wise, like, besides the conspiracies themselves, I mean, everyone knows the events of the Titanic.
Yeah.
Like, it left from Ireland on its way to New York, like, got hit by an iceberg, split in two, went to the bottom. We've been down, we've seen the Titanic wreckage. We're going to stay away from, like, recent news.
That's probably best.
Yeah.
If you don't know what we're talking about, what rock have you been living under?
What was it? The Titanic's crash was in... Well, the maiden voyage was 1912.
The maiden voyage, I think, 1912. But I think it was like April 10th.
It was
maiden
April,
voyage,
yeah.
and then I think they sank on the 15th.
We weren't able to go down.
Yeah, it sank on April the 15th. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like between that time, we weren't able to go down and see it until like 1985.
That's because we didn't know where it was.
It was really recent. We didn't know where it was, and we didn't have the tech to go down.
We didn't have a tech, no, yeah. Like
there
I say,
wasn't a pressurized capsule strong enough to get us that deep.
But I just find that fascinating, is that we had a rough idea of where it was, and I suppose because we've said it before, the ocean is massive, and the ocean floor is very vast. It's pretty much hardly been explored. It was like trying to find a needle in a haystack, and they genuinely found it. They found the ship, they found the first part of it, and then the second part of it, and I think that in itself, as far as sort of human ingenuity goes, that is fantastic that they were able to get down to that depth and actually see the wreckage of the Titanic. And I mean, have you guys seen actually any of the clips from sort of like going down in the submerged sort of drone footage that they use?
Yeah, funny. Recently, actually, I saw some of the footage of the actual, the wreckage at the bottom of the sea, and I think, didn't they do something like a 3D model or something recently, where you could actually, you could fully see.
Yeah.
They had obviously taken pictures and like did this 3D render of it or something.
The wreckage.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it was really impressive, to be honest.
It was, but from that 3D model, it's opened up so many more questions as to, was it really the fact that it hit an iceberg that sank it? Because I mean, the design of the ship, like I said, was based on the Olympic. They use the exact same blueprints. So when we see in the film, they actually mention it, and I think that James Cameron's attention to detail on the film, and I know we keep going back to the film, I do apologise, but because it is so, a lot of it is quite accurate as to what we know. When they got the map out of the plans to see the ship, and they were explaining all the hulls, sort of the watertight sections, they were using the blueprints from the Olympic, because they didn't have any for Titanic. They never designed any sketches for the Titanic. They used the Olympic, which I think was fascinating at the time.
Well, they commissioned three, didn't they? So it was the
Olympic, Titanic,
and Britannic.
The Britannic, yeah. The Britannic was a war one, wasn't it? It was bringing back...
no, it was also a passenger liner, but it was during the war when it was built, so they ended up having to obviously recommission it for the.
Lo and behold, that one sank as well.
Well, yeah, that was.
I mean, just off that, so according to some hypothesis on the Titanic as well, it was pretty much doomed to fail from the start, because, as I said, they've built these 15 watertight bulkheads, compartments, which were all had electric weight lift doors, and they operated individually or simultaneously by a switch on the bridge. So literally the guy on the captain on the bridge could push a button and shut certain sections off, which was fine. But as the bulkheads come down and the water rises, it could go over the top of the bulkhead and into the next compartment. So I mean, that in itself is a flawed design, surely. I mean,
Like, how else are you expecting like bulkheads to? I mean, even if it went down, it'd still get under before it closed, depending on how quickly it was flooding.
some water would get through. Don't get me wrong, and we it tried to show us that in the film where they're all trying to run through, as in the steam engine rooms, and they're all coming down. And the guy's literally getting his men through, and then he dives through at the last second, and it shuts. But you would think from that point, right? Okay, we're safe. Yeah, no. The water's sort of going over the top and into the next one. So why have you built a door? Obviously, I know it would slow it down, but I mean that water was coming through pretty rapidly. Now, here's where some of the speculation comes in. And have you seen the pictures? I mean, obviously, I know the pictures aren't fantastic because of when they were taken, sort of like 1912 and things like that. If you look at the pictures, a lot of the ship in certain areas is very dark or different colour compared to the rest of the ship. And this is where they're saying that there was a fire in the boiler room from the point that it's before it even set off on its maiden voyage. The actual boiler room was on fire, and it's sort of weakened the integrity of the ship because they didn't manage to put the fire out till like 2 days before it sank. It had already set sail at this point. The room was on fire.
Wait, are you saying it was on fire like after it like left port?
Yeah, it was still.
We could turn around, but no. We're going to use this fire to get across.
Wait, mate. It was on fire before people got on board. That's what.
It was burning at port.
Yeah, it was. That's one of the things that they're saying is that it was on fire at that
2
point.
days, because the last port it left was Queenstown, which I think was 11th of April.
So 2 days before, 2 days before it sank.
2 days before it sank. They bang in the middle of the Atlantic.
They managed to put the fire out 2 days before it sank.
Oh, so it was burning before it left port.
Yes, it was still. Yeah,
I was thinking that the wrong way around.
I'm sorry, but I actually thought you were saying that they put it out when it sank.
No. Well, yeah, they did in a way.
I mean, it fixed it.
I'm extremely.
So this is why they drove it into the ice field. They wanted to sink the ship so they could put out the fire.
They were like, let a bit of water in, let it get out.
We have solved the mystery on the Titanic.
It sank to put out a fire.
I am so glad that this show isn't to be taken seriously.
Well done, Glenn. You've solved the mystery.
But this is the thing, right? So that's just one theory. I'm not saying that that's the definitive have all and be all.
I've just got the captain now at the helm and be like, Captain, that fire's still burning. I have an idea.
It seems very Fast and Furious. That don't worry,
just drifting the Titanic into an iceberg.
The story's about family. The thrusters on the back of the ship was going.
I mean, let's talk about the ship itself, though. You're like, well, this is the bit that gets me right, is that they were in such a rush to sort of get this ship off. Bearing in mind, we know it's on fire, right? And I mean, they had to bring in fresh flowers to put into rooms and all over the ship because they'd only just finished varnishing it that day. So it's not like they've even had time for paint to dry. Bits of stuff.
You're telling me all the passengers were high.
Doesn't sound that bad to me.
Ship's on fire. Everyone's off the tits. This sounds more like a party boat to me.
Are you making this up as you go along?
No. Honestly, so the ship wasn't even fully finished when they actually started to bring the passengers on. Now, they were still like literally putting floorboards down, making sure everything was right. Some of the rooms still didn't have things in them, then they were putting it in. This is literally as the ship is taking off. They're still varnishing things and bringing in fresh flowers to cover up the smell. So, I mean, they spent a lot of money on this. Now, obviously, absent from the ship was the financier of the ship, J.P. Morgan. Now, Dave's like, yeah, I know about that guy. He was still on holiday somewhere else.
Well, no, I mean the way they put it is that
He was sick.
He planned this whole thing because one, it was insurance fraud,
Yeah.
and two, it was he wanted to take out his closest competitors who were on the Titanic.
Yeah.
He made sure they were on the Titanic, and he happened to be absent.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I don't know if it's the same theory, but wasn't that the theory that the Titanic's not the one that sank? It was the Olympic.
That's
It was the Olympic, yes.
We'll go
Yeah.
into that in a second.
I thought them two were the same theory, or am I mixing them together?
No, there's sort of like
it's technically
similar.
two different
Yeah,
theories.
they are two separate ones, but they are very similar as to what they were. Now, what we will do is we'll just sort of go for a bit more. Now, in regards to the story, we know now that it's set sail, it's gone, it's basically, from what we've seen picture-wise and it setting sail, it was a magnificent ship. It looked beautiful. You know, it set sail. The film very well recreates quite a lot of the interior from pictures and things like that, and that's probably the closest we'll ever get to actually seeing what it looked like. And let's face it, it looked grand. That's exactly what they wanted with the ship. They wanted it to look basically spot on, and the fact that they offered the ship was priced very reasonably for anybody. I mean, the lowest price anyone could sail across for was like £2 at the time. You know, now it's probably a couple hundred, but I mean, even that's still cheap. I mean, when you think about, you just look at cruises now. I mean, you see it on TV starting from just
paying like $1,000 for a P&O cruise.
Well, it's just like it's like starting now from just $999.99. It's like what? It's like, really? So you're sort of like looking at this and thinking, oh, it's quite a reasonable price. You know, they try to make affordable sailing. Sort of like we've got affordable flights with like EasyJet and things like that, or Ryanair. This is what these were trying to do before then. This was like the cheap way to sail, and they wanted people to sort of go and start off this new life in America. And that's what they were doing. They were sailing off to America and hoping for a better life. Little did they know they weren't going to make it. Now, have you guys got anything else you want?
In the opening, actually.
Yeah, that should have been, should it?
The Titanic, the voyage on its way to America. Little did they know they weren't going to make it.
That should have just been James Cameron's tagline, really, shouldn't it, for the film? I would have sold more.
Just turn it from like a factual thing into like a horror show.
Well, it's like when you see those documentaries, everything was fine until it wasn't.
Actually, I have seen. Have you seen that? They have done a horror movie about the Titanic.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's the worst piece of shit.
Well,
Was there a monster, or were we just saying the iceberg was like a Yeti in the
It's
sea?
a ghost ship. The Titanic comes back. Ghost ship.
Okay.
We've
I mean,
got
it'd be the worst ghost ship. It'd just come back and crash into every iceberg. You
Yeah.
don't have to worry. It's just going to sink itself.
Before we do head to a quick break, have you guys got anything else you want to say in regards to the history of the Titanic before we start getting into the sort of the theories and everything?
No, get to the fun bit.
Not history-wise. No, fun bit.
No? Okay. So we've got no more information on that. Obviously, anything you do want, you can find, like I say, online. It's everywhere. You've seen the film, you've seen documentaries. Like I say, we try and give you the important information, the fun information.
Go watch the horror movie too. You might enjoy it.
Yeah, you never know. Leave us a review. Let us know.
Leave us a review about somebody else's movie.
Yeah. But before that, we are going to take a very quick break.
Welcome back to the show about the ship that couldn't sink.
It
did.
did.
Oh no, this is the show that can't sink. Oh, no, that's gonna be
Just you wait.
That's some my brave words there, old man.
Someone's ambitious.
I know, yeah. I thought I was one with the ambition.
I live in a flat. I'm above sea level. You two, on the other hand, got problems.
Oh god.
So yeah, before the break, we were talking sort of the history of the Titanic and little bits of information of all the other ships that the White Star Line group built, which was the Titanic, the Olympic, and the Britannic, was it?
Britannic, yeah.
Yeah. See, this is why I brought Dave on. He's the expert in this. We said he weren't an expert in anything, but he's clearly an expert in it. He knows the names of the ships. He can correct me when I say things wrong.
Dave's
most of the shit you say.
Yeah, most of the stuff. So let's get into sort of the theories behind everything now. So obviously the story, as we know, is the...
Wow, yeah, those fireworks.
Mate, you should have heard it here the other day when we was talking about Mothman. Honestly, there was screaming
Everything
outside,
happened.
there was fireworks, internet cut off. It's like somebody really didn't want me to make that episode. But you guys can listen into that episode of Mothman. It is
If it hasn't been taken down.
If it hasn't been taken down by the New World Order. It is episode 8 that you can listen into. But so yeah, going into the other side of it now. So there's conspiracies, the theories behind everything. So the main stories that we've been told, that we know, is the ship hit an iceberg, sank. It in the process of sinking, it snapped into two. The nose went down and dragged the rear with it and went down. Now, that bit we know because we've had witness statements come through from those that did survive the sinking of the Titanic. Some of them being little children, to some of them at the time being a lot older. I think the last surviving member of the Titanic has now sadly passed away. I'm not too sure. I think I read that somewhere. But let's get into the other side of it, the conspiracies. Dave, going to go straight to you first, man. You're the guest on the show. You've been waiting for this bit. You've been waiting for this bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, isn't there? I mean, you've got the obviously the conspiracy that the Titanic was actually the Olympic. They were switched.
Me and you love that because we've had we've had many conversations about that.
We have, yeah. I mean, it's realistically, it is such a cool conspiracy that, I mean, that many people working on the Titanic had all been silenced. You know, it was all obviously insurance fraud. You know, because well, let's just go into it a bit.
Oh, that explains the fire from earlier. They set fire to it, couldn't sink it.
Well,
and no, we still need to sink this thing.
The Olympic obviously was built first. Had actually been damaged while Captain John Smith was piloting that ship. He crashed it into another ship.
Yeah,
and it was severely damaged.
Yeah, they trust this guy to sail again.
yeah, exactly. So taken back to port, they realised they weren't going to make any money back on the damaged Olympic. So the story goes that they switched it with the brand new Titanic, which was insured for quite like a large sum. And they knew obviously if something did happen to that ship, which was apparently the already damaged Olympic, now they've been switched.
It wouldn't be.
I'm more concerned about the fact that the guy crashed the ship and you let him have a new ship. Like, you have changed the captain.
You would have. No. I mean, if you look at pictures of the guy, it looks like Captain Birdseye.
Lookout as well.
Fool me once.
Did they have the same lookout as well?
Well, to me, actually, with regards to the lookout, that was another funny thing. With the crow's nest, they didn't actually have any binoculars in the crow's nest. What essential piece of equipment that they needed in the crow's nest?
One thing you need to see at a distance.
No, but have you heard the reason why, though, they didn't have any binoculars? Apparently, it was because the human eye can see better without aids. Well. I'm sorry, but there will be a TikTok video of this, and you can go and watch us on TikTok. We all have glasses on, which are aids to help us see better.
No. My human eyes are better than my glasses.
So, but the only thing is, though, I was watching another documentary that explained sort of the phenomena that you sort of looked at, and apparently it was something called like a water mirage. Now, basically, because the water was so still and it was very calm, there was no cloud in the sky. Apparently, it would have been quite hard to see an iceberg up close. Now, there was another ship not far off from where the Titanic was, and it's actually quite sad because the documentary explains that they were getting the messages through when it had hit the iceberg that the ship, that there was a problem, but they looked out and they were like, well, no, that's not a Titanic. We're nowhere near it. That can't. That ship looks perfectly fine. It's not big enough to be the Titanic. It wasn't even that far away, but because the sea was so calm, and you had like a glare from like the night sky. It made the ship look smaller. You know, like you can, when you stand on the beach and you look out the scene, you can see like a ship passing by or an oil rig. It can become disillusioned because of like the sea, the temperature, and everything else that's sort of in the mix.
They look like they're floating, don't they? It can look like
Exactly,
it's flying.
yeah. And that's what they saw with the Titanic. So this ship literally was watching the Titanic sink and could have easily managed to save them, but because they stopped that time of night, the guy who was actually listening to any messages had finished for the day. So when they're literally sending out the SOS from the Titanic, he didn't hear any of it because he's now gone to bed and he's done for the day.
I think I've got it in my notes that there was also like static on all the messages around that time because of how cold it was.
Yes. So it was very cold. I mean,
But even if they did get the message and the guy was on shift, he'd have still just heard static.
Exactly. And I think that's the sad thing, is that someone could have literally been stood on that ship with binoculars on the other ship, not on the Titanic, you know, and he's literally watched the ship go down and he didn't even know. And I think that
Some men just like to watch the world sink.
see what you did there. But going back to the idea of it being the Olympic, it wouldn't have been that hard to change everything over, because as I've already said, they were built with the exact same blueprints, the exact same detail. The staircase and everything that we see in the Titanic is just a replica of the one from the Olympic. They built exactly the same to make, you know, they wanted everything to be the same. They wanted to, you know, you didn't get, you know, the Titanic was, okay, it was built differently, it was a bit better and things like that. And it was just built exactly the same, except the amount of lifeboats. So we've got less lifeboats on the Titanic because they were claiming it's unsinkable. Really, what it was is they couldn't afford to put more on. That was one of the things that someone said, is that they couldn't afford to get more ships, but it also you would have stacked two lots of lifeboats on board, and it would have sort of stopped for passing space and wouldn't have made the ship look as pleasing as it did. And, you know, I mean, I think I'd prefer to have more lifeboats at the end of the day.
Well, I mean, it was that as well, and
Style
because
over
it was
substance.
supposed to be unsinkable, they obviously didn't want lifeboats, too many lifeboats on there, because it's unsinkable. It's, you know.
I mean, I think that's ridiculous at the end of the day. I mean, they really did
if you were
cut
that
corners.
confident it wasn't going to sink, you wouldn't have put lifeboats on at all.
Well,
Yeah,
that is a fair
like-
point. That is a fair point.
If you were that confident, you'd have just had none.
Yeah. I mean, that's the, you know, these are the theories for this. They sort of spawn loads, and that Olympic one is very much very feasible. Like I say, in the fact that because you know, all the paint was still wet when they were coming on board the ship. How easy would it have been to sort of paint over the Titanic? The Olympic, paint the Titanic on the side of it, paint the ship up to make it look good. That darkened image that we've seen of the hull that's already damaged, you know, it looks like it's on fire. Maybe there was no fire. That's just the work that's been done to sort of patch it up as best they can. It looks a bit darker because they've used a different type of steel to sort of weld onto the ship and try and blend it in as best they can. And I mean, the more you look at this and the more you think about it, and Dave, me and you have said this many a times, it seems very feasible that that could be a reality. But unfortunately, without actually, I mean, it's too far gone now. You know, they're saying
I know
the
the end
ships.
of this conspiracy. It's going to be Dave underwater, like in a well-pressured suit, just looking at the side of the Titanic on the side of the boat and just wiping it away to read Olympic. And he's like, I knew I was right.
Yeah, that's what I do with my weekends. Deep sea diving.
The guy can't get a box off a shelf without throwing his back out. What makes you think it's going to
Literally. I'm sat here
He's
with
underwater. His back's
a
not a
full pack of
problem.
codeine here because I've got a bad back. And you expect me to go deep sea diving?
Maybe the pressure under there will help you back.
Dave is the conspiracy.
Dave looks at an actual picture of the captain and realizes it was me all along.
Is that a bottle of bud in my hand?
Explains everything. So, just just from that, like I say, we can't literally. I mean, there has been bits from the ship that have been brought up. Let's face it, but they've said now that trying to do anything with the ship, it's going to crumble. It is so far gone that it is literally decomposing as we talk. You know, they said in the next couple of 100 years it'll be completely gone. Anything trying to move it, bring anything else to the surface, it's just gonna collapse. The staircase now has completely gone. So that beautiful.
Not like you need to walk up the stairs underwater.
Well, no, but still, you know, when they've gone down and they've been able to see it, now it's gone. You know, and as you said from that 3D image, where they've now gone in, we have got new technology. They are using drones now to go in, you know, that do all this sort of the LiDAR things and sort of do a 3D image of the ship. And now they're saying that there's more to the story. Is did it even really hit an iceberg? Well, I'm sorry, but if it didn't hit an iceberg, what's the story that everyone's been telling us for years? You know,
Godzilla. It was Godzilla.
I was literally going to say Godzilla then as well. I genuinely was about to say Godzilla.
Great man.
I mean, James Cameron's gonna have to go back and remake the whole film. You know? I mean, I'd like to see where the details come from in regards to the 3D scan, but obviously I don't think they've delved too much into it at this moment in time.
One of the things that, when I was doing my research about the Olympic switch, was the scans they did and the model they mocked up had a few things that didn't fully match with Olympic, which sort of proves it was the Titanic. But then with the level of decay that you were mentioning, that could just be they're just not matching up because it's just.
I mean, there is quite a few things that do debunk it really. I think it was the serial number as well from the Olympic. It obviously is slightly different to the Titanic's one, and they have seen on the bottom of the sea it is Titanic's serial number. So that is one of the things that does apparently debunk.
Yeah, well, they've got part of the ship, haven't they? They have actually brought a part of it up. You know, we've got like a big steel bunker, which is one of the bulkheads, and from its design, to be fair, in theory, it shouldn't have sank, but because the water came in where it came in and flooded up, if they'd only flooded 2 or 3 bulkheads, the ship would have been fine. It would have been slowed down massively, but it still would have made it. I mean, it's a ship. There's at some point, no matter, we've all been on boats, we've all been on like a little rowboat, or we've been out on catamarans, on holidays and things like that. There's always a bit of water on board the ship somewhere. You know, don't get me wrong, you're not sinking, but there's some water somewhere. So surely that it would have made it. I mean, I'm not saying the Titanic was a catamaran in any way, shape, or form, because it's in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
I mean, that gives. I mean, that's one of those things that gives like some of the other conspiracies a bit of weight, like the J.P. Morgan. You know, he wanted the ship sank. You know, a bit of weight, really. I mean, with the way that one goes, is obviously he wanted to take out some of his competitors who were on the ship. They obviously paid to come onto the ship and see the biggest and the fastest ship in the world at the time.
That was also one of the theories that led into it. So I found that theory through another theory about the Federal Reserve Bank.
Exactly. That was one of the major, issues. Really, that is why apparently he wanted to take them out. Was something to do with this argument over the Federal Reserve, and then obviously he happened to not be on the ship at the time, and his closest competitors had gone down with the ship. And I mean,
it's funny that isn't it? He was still on holiday. He weren't feeling well, so he didn't quite make it to the ship.
Well, I wanted to come with you, but I'm just saying I need to stay in bed today. It's like did a Ferris Bueller. Somebody's on the ship, like.
But Morgan, I mean, it's money at the end of the day, isn't it? And you know, realistically, how greedy businesses and things like that can be. And it's there's other stories throughout time where this has happened.
Yeah, we've seen it millions times, haven't we? But I mean, think of the time period it's in as well. This is at the time where everyone is trying to be the biggest, the best, the fastest. It was 1912. It's it's the start of like massive growth across the world. And obviously he wants to sort of, you want to be the only one in the competition, so you know you're top dog. You want to be the best of the best. I mean, of course,
Monopoly's still not illegal at this point.
Yeah. So, of course, he was going to, it does seem very plausible that he's invited these people, come and see the ship. I will show you that I'm going to put you out of business with the ship. Yeah, he's going to put you out of business because he's going to kill you. He planned it all along.
Just got this image of him sat with pasta being like, you'll be sleeping with the fishes.
He's just sat on the side, dressed like
restaurant.
He's just dressed like Dr. Evil. He's just like stroking his cat.
I mean,
It's okay, I took care of them.
I've actually got here now. I don't know if this is modern day, or as of 2005, should I say. It cost 700 million to build the Titanic, and it was insured for 5 million. So, I mean, I don't know if they're today's figures or if they were figures from then when the ship was built.
They do sound like inflated figures.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just that in itself. So, I mean, at least 2 million of it's not insured. That's just the crew. that's the crew and the passengers. But here's the thing. Now,
did you have to insure people back then?
Yes. Well, that's the thing, though. Everyone was allowed compensation. But this, it's not a conspiracy. But this was
only if you
something that,
survived.
Yes. So those that did survive. Now, get how the compensation worked. If they brought up any items that were recovered from the ship, you were entitled to compensation. Nothing came back from the ship. Nothing. They didn't get anything because they couldn't find where it actually sank. So all those people that were on board the ship never got any compensation from the survivors. They never got anything. Due to maritime law, they were not qualified for any compensation at all. So they went through all that ordeal of literally spending hours at sea, floating in little dinghies, freezing cold, watching people die, and they didn't see any sort of recompense for it. And I think that's just mad. So literally, he's insured his ship, he's got his money, he's laughing, he's fine, but everyone that was involved gets nothing.
No, but if you were a survivor that was alive in 85, anything recovered from that ship, wouldn't that be yours?
I don't know how that would work from that point. It might have been too far past the time.
What?
To be fair, Glenn would have only got Leonardo DiCaprio, that's all.
He wouldn't have even got that, he would have just got the door.
I mean...
It was worth it.
I mean, talking of that as well, like the things that are down there, I mean... The video footage that you see and the pictures that you've seen from down there, and you just see like shoes. That's the bit that's really sad. Is that the fact that the people were in them shoes? It
makes it real, doesn't it? It makes it's so haunting just to see say stuff like that.
Let's face it. It is like it was a massive disaster, and it is very sad what happened. But I mean, you're looking at those pictures of the shoes and things like that, and you think, Jesus, that was somebody who was on board that ship, and their loved ones can't even take the body and bury it or cremate it or anything like that. It is literally gone because the sea has just dissolved the body. I mean, that like you say, David, it's very haunting looking at it. And even the footage of like the captain's bathroom, which is a very popular...
he left the captain's log.
For fuck's sake, Homer.
I couldn't help it.
The captain's log.
So the captain's bathroom is a very famous picture of sort of looking at the Titanic when they've gone down and seen it. I think it was like one of the first things that they actually explored. And honestly, I think the whole story behind the Titanic is very fascinating. And I don't know, have you guys got any more theories that you've come across at all?
I did find another one, which was quite funny, really. Have you heard about the unlucky mummy?
That was one of mine. I saw that. The curse of the doomed, the mummy that doomed the Titanic.
Exactly.
I enjoyed reading about that one.
I mean, like you say, it's one of them where they were told that there was a mummy that was taken. Well, it wasn't the mummy. It was the casket that the mummy was in.
Right.
Was taken on board the ship.
Okay.
Before that, many people who had obviously taken the mummy out of the casket and stuff had been killed or been really unlucky. You know, there was a guy who
It's
shot his
literally the
own
plot
hand.
of The
I think he
Mummy.
shot his own hand. He ended up, he had his gun holstered and shot and managed to shoot himself in the hand. Had to have his hand amputated. One guy died mysteriously. Another guy lost all his money and became bankrupt. So a lot of
One
people
them
who were
went mute
involved
as
with the
well.
original.
I don't know whether he lost his tongue or just went mute, but there was a guy.
Yeah,
who went mute.
I did hear something about that as well.
I don't know this one. This is really interesting.
No, yeah. So they were saying like everyone that was involved in obviously taking the casket, the mummy out of the casket, had met quite tragic ends and things like that. But
So
then they said,
so this mummy literally killed thousands of people just to get to one.
they say it's a curse, don't they? So obviously, the casket was taken. Then I think it was supposed to be donated to the British Museum, but obviously, I think the person who purchased it was putting it on the.
So they thought
Titanic
the
or something.
casket was on the boat because the guy one of the surviving guys, I think his name was. Oh, he's on my notes. Where is it?
My God,
William Steed.
Homer's done more research than me.
Yeah, when it comes to this fun, like crazy.
Yeah, you
stuff.
usually get the fun ones. You do usually get the fun ones.
But yeah, like the passenger's name was William Steed. He was one who was like said to have bought the casket on board.
Yeah.
But whether he did or didn't wouldn't have mattered because he was cursed.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Final Destination thing.
Yeah. So
it was like he was going to get him with or without the casket. And I think when they were searching the wreckage or the manifest, they couldn't find any mention of the casket.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, because they actually have the casket. I think it is actually in the British Museum, so it was never.
Is it?
It was never on the ship.
So it was never on the boat. But the theory still stays because the guy who desecrated the body in the first place was on the ship. So it was after him and just took the ship with him.
Right.
So
Honestly, yeah. Honestly, that's fascinating.
The Titanic
it wasn't an iceberg.
Back.
It was Imhotep.
It was Imhotep.
It's a great plot for the next movie film.
Only O'Connell can save us now.
Tell you what, Brendan Fraser would be on that.
He would actually.
Like jam on toast. He'd be on that. I mean, there has been lots of conspiracy theories, and it's that time where I sort of, Dave, as you are quite new to the episodes, you've not heard any yet. I ask, do you want to know? Would you like to know the truth? Is it something that has intrigued you, or are you happy living in the fascination that it could be the Olympic, it could be something else, it was an insurance job? Would you like to know the truth, or are you happy living with that?
No, I'm quite happy, like living in my little bubble of it. You know, this could have happened. I mean, I quite like, you know, the did this happen kind of thing. I do enjoy conspiracies, so that.
I had my own theory on this one.
Oh, almost got a theory. Oh,
because it's like, because of the time it was between wars.
Yeah.
Right. You have a lot of financial gain that could have come from anywhere. Mm-hmm. I like to believe it was a spy game. This was the original Bond. He was on there. He was trying to stop like some world devastating event. And, like, the only way he could stop it was sink the ship, so he steered it into the boat. But you never hear about it, because it was James Bond. Or James Bond of the time.
So then he just did a Spider-Man into the sky.
No, he was probably the first one on the lifeboat.
It was... Oh, man, let's face it. My internet's probably going to go off again now. It was Mothman, right? It was Mothman.
No, Mothman. He was stood on the iceberg watching the events. You remember, he doesn't take part in the events.
Doesn't take part. Yeah. So the New World Order created the Mothman, right? This might be where someone comes up behind me now, puts a bag over my head, and takes me off as I'm talking it. But, you know, we will get into the New World Order in the second season. I can guarantee you with that. But, I mean, for me, I, like you, Dave, I'm happy living in my little bubble. You know, it's a great mystery, and every few years there's a bit more information that comes out, and we get a new documentary about it. And, you know, just seeing the footage of the ship on the floor is very haunting, and it is sort of a reminder of, we aren't unsinkable, we aren't impenetrable. Something that is built to say it's going to last. Nothing can sink. Not even God can sink the ship. Mother Nature can. Unfortunately, we need that reminder that we're not invincible, and I think that the Titanic sort of gives us that. It sort of tells us that we may wear armor and think we are the best, but something is going to be better, and something is going to take you down a peg. Omer, what about you? Are you happy living in the bliss, or would you like to know?
With the Titanic, I'm happy with bliss.
Yep.
I don't feel like the truth at this point. Like I've said it before, there's no fun.
Yeah,
no fun.
it's not. It's not. We've said it on...
I feel like the truth's going to end up being just some rich guy forgot to pay a bill.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the boring thing. I don't want that.
Someone forgot to pay the bill and turned the electric bulkheads off because they've not put 50p in the meter.
Oh shit, iceberg.
But I mean, just one more thing. I just want to circle back to the binoculars as well. I read a report not long ago. Apparently, the binoculars were meant to be on board the ship, and they were found in someone's attic in Liverpool.
Was it JP Morgan?
So
is
someone
this where
actually
all the scouse sort of, what do you call it? I don't know what the word is. The scouse steal everything.
The stereotype.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. The stereotype came from.
God knows. But apparently they found the binoculars that should have been on board the ship.
Clearly left the shoes behind.
In a lift, in an attic in Liverpool. So do with that as you will. But yeah, I think we've come up with...
Sorry, I just love the fact that like all these billionaires are trying to get to the bottom of the ocean and all this lot, but then you've got Omer thinking that a bunch of fucking chav scouts is managing to plunder in there. I don't even know what.
I mean, what's worse is I don't think any of the course of the ship went near Liverpool. So, like, those are some like ingenuitive scousers.
These are epic bounty hunters.
I mean, at that point, I think I'm going to say I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. We are now very much right at the end of the first season. We have another episode. Our next week's episode is the finale. It's the last episode of the season, and we're going underwater as we journey through Atlantis. But obviously, we'll go through that next week. I mean, Dave, thank you very much for being on the show. I hope you've enjoyed it.
You're welcome. Where's my payment?
It's on the bottom of the Titanic.
You can get it from the Titanic.
All right, okay. I'll have to contact some of my Scouse friends to retrieve that for them.
Love it. Dave, I'm going to ask you now, would you like to come back again at any point?
No, yeah. If the topic interests me enough.
Yeah, see, it's been nice. Honestly, it's been nice to have you on the show. It's nice to have somebody else's perspective who, isn't from me and Omer as we do our research. You've just come in with the knowledge that you know and what you already read about in the past. It's nice to sort of have that. Omer, would you like to have Dave on again at some point?
Let me mull that one over.
Would you like me to leave the show when Dave takes over?
That's more like it.
Let us know in the comments. Also, just want to thank Dave for being on the show this week. It's been nice to have him on with his knowledge that he knows and correcting me where I've gone wrong. It's nice to have that. Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
We honestly, mate, I hope you do come back on the show. I hope you come back for another episode. It's been great having you. I mean, I can't wait to get back on with you with our show on From Dusty Cartridges to Broken Discs, which is a YouTube show. Dave, do you want to say anything about it?
Gaming.
Short, sweet, to the point. But yes, thank you very much, Dave, for being on the show. It's been fantastic. And again, like I say, I'll be jumping on with you again very soon on our YouTube channel, which you can find us on Dusty to Broken, which is mine and Dave's gaming show, along with our friend Adam. And obviously, you can catch me and Omer on everything on our YouTube. We're on there. We're on TikTok.
On the moon.
On the moon. That's season 2, Omer, moon landing. We'll give that one away for free. What's coming in season 2. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm out of coffee. Have we given you answers? Have we left you with more questions than you came in with?
You can let us know on all our socials, links are in the description, but be sure to leave us a great review to please the overlords.
You can find all our episodes wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you tune in next week when we have a fresh pot of coffee, some more crazy theories. But for now, I've been Glenn.
And I've been Omer. See you next time on Caffeinated Conspiracies.